I think Daniel is a great producer, and perhaps one of his best qualities is his ear for magic. He knows how to push me, and both musically and lyrically, and perhaps further than I might go on my own.
The wretched desert takes its form, the jackal proud and tight. In search of you, I feel my way through the slowest evening night. Whatever fear remains, I swear it makes no sense. I reach out through the border fence. Come down, come talk to me.
Come Talk to Me grew out of a Senegalese groove, but I'd recorded a long time back with Doudou and Jay Rose, this Senegalese master drummer, and it was a groove that I liked a lot. We chopped up a little bit of it and added some other beats. I tried to introduce quite a lot of textures. I think it's sort of more of a journey than some of the other tracks, and starting off with these bagpipes, something quite sort of gutsy and primal about the sound of pipes. I feel that by looking in the darkness and by sort of diving into it, that there is some light at the other end of it, which otherwise, if you bury, it gets suppressed. So I think there's some, it feels quite hopeful to me, quite positive. In Come Talk to Me, there's a sort of block in communication. And in fact, there was initially with one of my daughters, and sort of got me going in that lyric anyway.
This all is so unreal. Can't you show me how you feel now? Come on, come talk to me. Come talk to me. Come talk to me.
In some ways, Secret World grows out of another love song, but it's about things also in the way they sort of decorate moods and relationships. It's the same way that music works sometimes, that or smell. You have just walk into a place and it'll have a particular scent or be a particular song playing that will plug you straight back into somewhere emotional. I hadn't thought that my work was becoming more spiritual, but as I look at it now, and I think in a desire for the water to wash over me, in the sense as the cleansing and purification, and that is a sort of spiritual yearning, I think. Some years ago I had these lines, like to be liked, need to be needed, want to be wanted, and love to be loved. And that's really the lyric that this love to be loved grew out of this time. I mean, it was sort of put onto a two-person relationship. There was an instrument that I played there a little wildly, which was given to me by this Madagascar musician called Ross, who we worked with on the recording week. And it's a fantastic sounding thing. Basically, it's a big chunk of bamboo, and it has bicycle brake wires going up the side of it, that surround it. and you can play it. I mean, Russ is a master of it, and he plays it like a harp, and it's a very beautiful, sweet-sounding thing. With Only Us, I think it was using the us as a more general word, as us as a species, as people. It's got, I think, some of my favorite sounds and textures and guests, with some wonderful elements with Shankar's violin playing, which is always very sort of moody and emotional. For me, there's Ayub Ogada, who's a Kenyan singer, who's based in London, and he has this very sort of sweet, soft, and quite rhythmic way of singing, which you hear in the beginning and the end of the song. Last time I was touring America, the guitarist David Rhodes insisted that I went to see this chapel in Texas, which Rothko had done, and it was full of black paintings, and 14 black paintings. And I went there, and it was one of the most spiritual places I've ever been. It's a very powerful experience, and the whole place, as I discovered sort of afterwards, is dedicated to sort of human rights, civil rights, and has sort of links with Martin Luther King and Gandhi. I was reading a book called The Uses of Enchantment, and it was looking at a lot of fairy stories, more from a psychological point of view. And I found it very fascinating through the fairy story of the princess learning to love the frog, getting to accept the frog, and then finding, through accepting it and loving it, the prince would emerge out of it, was actually a very good sort of analogy for an introduction to sexuality. So beneath the fairy story of Kiss That Frog is the sexual underbelly. The Real World Experience Park is an idea that's been cooking for probably about 10 years, and Brian Eno and Laurie Anderson have been working on it now a couple of years with me, and we now have a place which has been offered to us in Spain, in Barcelona, where we might be able to create a beautiful landscape in which was set these various experiences, which teams of artists, architects, psychologists, filmmakers, musicians are now looking at ideas in terms of designing them. I think the tour we did for Amnesty to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Declaration of Human Rights took us to all these countries around the world, in Africa, India, Central, South America. And it was just the most sort of fantastic experience for me as a person and as a musician. Last year, we started a program called Witness with the Reebok Foundation, which is a human rights foundation, to supply primarily video cameras to human rights activists all around the world. It's very hard when you have a piece of video and it gets on the news to say it didn't happen. The Passion record, which is very important for me because I had the opportunity there to work with some really emotional and spiritual singers and players, many of whom I come across through WOMAD and Real World Records. In the recording week, we wanted to try hijacking all the artists from the WOMAD festivals and bringing in some invited guests. We had different producers involved, working on 6 different rooms. We had poets writing lyrics, and for about 16 hours every day, we had this fantastic feeling of exploration and people really feeling each other out.
introduced his frog nest.
Between 1980 and 1982, I spent quite a lot of time getting WOMAD up and rolling, but I've not really been involved with the organization since the first one, except as an advisor. But they do like me to come along from time to time and get involved. And this year's 10th birthday, I've been doing some emceeing.
Lady kiss that frog.
Part of what I love about the experience of being with all these musicians from many countries is that you all the time learn more about yourself, learn more about how to be with someone else, and how to be with the people of the world. And in many ways, those are the subjects of this album. Us is one of us, two of us, and all of us.